Good morning, welcome back to the channel. So here we are, 1 year, 10,000 miles later. Let's talk about some of the things that I like and some of the things that I dislike about this bike, some of the things that I did do to this bike, and how they're holding up. So overall, the bike's doing really well. So we're at the point where I know I need to adjust my valves. They're a little tight. I'm getting a little bit lower fuel mileage, a little less power than normal. I know that Kawasaki says go 15,000 miles, adjust the valves. Everything I've read online, that's not the case. And I don't think the KLR was ever intended to be used the way that I use it. I ride this thing 80 miles an hour down the freeway for the majority of the miles on here. I would say probably 7,000 of the 10,000 miles on here I did at 80 plus miles an hour on the freeway, consistent. I did wait a while and then did the 16 tooth upgrade. We've got that video. It's been out for a while. The 16 tooth upgrade was a game changer. It allows me to go 80 miles an hour and have a lot lower RPMs. I don't really notice a ton on the top end, and that's probably again due to the valves. I'm still only hitting that 95 mile an hour range. You know, they say with the 16 tooth upgrade you can get it to like 105 to 110, somewhere in there. I have a hard time believing that. So I lost the thermostat at about 7,000 miles. That the thermostat itself was fine. It was just the seal was leaking, so I did have to replace that. And now my chain, I don't know how well you'll be able to see it in the video, my chain popped off yesterday. And now I know most of you watching the video are thinking 10,000 miles on a chain is a long time, and you're right. I should have changed it out about 3,000 miles ago. 7,000 miles on a chain is pretty long range. But I wanted to see how long the Kawasaki factory chain was going to hold up before it stretched. I did have a couple times, you know, when I did the 16 tooth upgrade, I adjusted the chain tension and everything, obviously, and then at regular intervals. And then yesterday I ran up to the store. I was coming back and I felt the chain stretch the final time it was going to stretch, and my chain actually popped off, and it was so loose that I was able to roll it on like a bicycle. I just started on, pushed the bike, went right back on. No damage was done to the bike, but 10,000 miles is the max you're going to get out of one of these chains. I mean, I definitely got my dollar's worth out of this chain. So and that was the thing. Like, I could have changed it a long time ago. I knew it was going to need it eventually. Obviously that could have happened on a longer ride, but it didn't. It happened right here by the house. And more than likely, you know, when I left, I had looked the bike over like I always do, and the chain didn't look stretched. But more than likely, a couple of days ago on my highway ride, is probably when it stretched. You know, I was kind of in and out of traffic and going here and there. So things I've done to the bike besides the 16 tooth upgrade. Obviously I did the new tires, because 5,000 was what I got out of the factory tires. Crash bars and pannier racks. Now the crash bars, we didn't know much about them. There wasn't a ton of reviews on them when we bought them. I do have a review coming up on my wife's bike. Now my son was riding it, and he went down on a crappy road, sandy and gravelly on top of asphalt, and he was riding. He was doing about 45 to 50. He put the bike down, and the crash bars and the panniers both took that entire wreck, allowed him to come actually out from under the bike. He stopped moving before the bike did, and it went on the crash bars for quite a while. So I'm going to do a video on that. I'm going to show the damage to the crash bars. You know, that's a 430 pound bike, had fuel in a 450 pound bike, just laying down on the very bottom, sliding. There wasn't much damage to the actual bike. So I was pretty impressed with that. I haven't actually put my bike down on the crash bars yet. I did have the one trip where I went down where the crash bars weren't on. So review of those coming up. I did my GPS mount for my Garmin InReach, and I did the RAM mount also for my phone. The X Grip, I like it, but it wobbles when the phone is in there, so it kind of pisses me off. But both of these have held up really well. I made my own custom risers to get my windshield up higher, so I can get kind of out of that deflection zone with my helmet. And really, back box panniers, that's about it. 10,000 miles, limited maintenance. I did exactly what was recommended. I did the oil change. I did 2 oil changes, about to be 3 oil changes. Tires. So it's been an easy bike to just get on and ride, and I've enjoyed it. Some of the things I don't like: this thing does not have a ton of power. I mean, it's 40 horsepower, I think, something like that. Now, 40 horsepower seems like a lot on a small dirt bike that you can rip around on. When you double, triple the weight, it's not anything to really get your blood pumping. Now, this thing will tractor through anything. It's got the same 5 gears that it's had probably since the original bike. I don't think they've changed any of the gearing. It doesn't have a 6-speed transmission, so you have to do something like a 16-tooth upgrade if you want to bomb this thing down the freeway and highways above 65 all the time. And then, of course, with the 16-tooth upgrade, you lose a little bit of your lower end torque. So when you are out trail riding, you suffer there a little bit. Not a ton. I'm not saying that you're going to not be able to take this thing off-road. You can take it off-road just fine. Tractor's just fine with that upgrade. But it's just something that you've got to look at. And for a bike that was $7,000, and then I added some accessories to it and just rode it around, it's been a great bike. Even with the valves being tight and I'm getting lower fuel mileage, I'm not afraid to go ride this wherever I want. I'm still riding it down the freeway. I have been switching up between this and my Ducati, since the Ducati's all put back together now. And so, yeah, I mean, if you want a budget-friendly bike that you could throw some gear on and go explore the world, this is it. If you are looking for something that you can bomb down the freeway more, and you can overload with as much gear as you could possibly want to carry and drive the whole world, this bike's not necessarily the one for you. Now, I have put all the way up to the recommended weight on this bike before. I have even had panniers with gear in them, and my wife on the back, because the terrain was bad enough that she didn't want to ride her bike. She wasn't comfortable with it. She's not at that skill level yet. And so we parked her bike somewhere where it was going to be fine for a couple of days, and then we took this into the backcountry with the panniers on it, and had no problem getting in and out. Now, obviously, it takes a little bit more finesse. There's times where she had to get off so I could get over some pretty hard obstacles, stuff like that. Not a big deal. But overall, I am impressed with the overall quality of this bike. And it was nice. My wife has the exact same bike. We got 2 of them for the price of another bike, and that got both of us out adventuring. It got my wife more comfortable with her motorcycle. She learned how to pick up a heavy bike using this bike, and my wife had only done dirt bikes up to that point in time. So it's a great bike to learn on. Now, if you're short like me, I'm only 5'7". My wife is also 5'7". So I can handle this bike at the height that it came because of all of the riding that I've done in the past, and it's not a problem for me to stop and put 1 foot down. Most people, when they start, they want to put 2 feet down. They want to be able to have both feet down at the light and not stand on their tiptoes. This bike is not going to do that for a shorter person right out the gate. So on my wife's, we did the lowering links. Those came from 3D Cycle Parts. I've actually bought a ton of my stuff from 3D Cycle Parts. My dirt tracks, crash bars, and my pannier racks all came from, the pannier racks did not come from 3D. They came from a different company. My crash bars came from 3D. My 16-tooth sprocket came from 3D. And I believe that might be it. And then Danielle's lowering links. And so They've got great prices, great service. You know, they're pretty good about getting your products out to you right away, and they started out their business, from what I've read on their online stuff, with the KLR. They've expanded to other bikes, but they do a real good job. So I highly recommend that company. They're not a sponsor. I've bought stuff from them, that kind of deal, and I've always had really good dealings with that company. So shout out to them. You guys do a good job. But yeah, 10,000 mostly maintenance-free miles. My wife's got 2,200 miles on her bike now, and so they've been a lot of fun. I highly recommend them. But if you're looking to get into this bike, you need to look at what you want it for. If you're looking for budget-friendly, go out and ride, or potentially in the scenario like us where you're buying two bikes, a bigger bike would have been more fun or more comfortable for me. But like I said, we got two bikes for the price of pretty much every other bike out there, or a little bit more than some of the bikes out there, but we still came home with two bikes for under 15. So great bike. I've had great dealings with the dealership I bought it from. I've had great dealings with Kawasaki on the bike. It's been a great machine, and now I'm to the point where I've got the 10,000 miles in it. The chain's gone. You know, I got to get a new one of those. I got to get a new thermostat, and I replaced the thermostat. I've got to do the valves, and so now it's going to be a little bit more preemptive maintenance. So, you know, I wanted to be able to do videos with this bike. I wanted to do only what Kawasaki recommended for maintenance or when something broke. And the 16-tooth sprocket upgrade, I did that just because if I was to leave the 15-tooth sprocket on this and continue to ride it like I did, I would be adjusting my valves twice as much, and I would be, in the long run, harming the longevity of this motor and the top end and bottom end, just because it was at max RPMs. I'm doing 80, 85 miles an hour down the freeway, and then you still want to be able to play, right? You still want to be able to pass somebody. One of your buddies pulls up next to you at a light or something on their bike, and you want to be able to kind of rip through some curves together, something like that. And the 15-tooth sprocket was just going to make that a problem. Now, the 15-tooth sprocket, if you leave it on there and you're not riding 80 miles an hour, it makes the bike much more comfortable off-road, makes it more comfortable in lower speeds. It gives you, you're a little bit higher in that RPM range to do a lot of the stuff that you want to be able to do. You want to be able to throw all your gear on, and you want to hit a road where you're going to do 30 miles an hour for the next 2 days and camp up by a nice lake and that kind of stuff, and rip around some trails while you're up there at the lake. The 15-tooth sprocket's where you want to stay. But if you're going to do a combination where you are more on the freeway, more on the highways, you know, when they made this bike, most freeways originally, obviously not the 2022, when they made this bike originally, most highways and freeways were 55, 65, and this bike has no problem on the 15-tooth doing that all day long. Now most freeways that I deal with are 80 miles an hour, and back highways are now 65 miles an hour. And so I had to make that decision. I haven't done that to my wife's bike. My wife doesn't ride hers on the freeway. She doesn't like the freeway. And when we go somewhere, we purposely plan our trip around the freeway. She's not comfortable with semis blowing by her. She's not comfortable with idiot drivers on the freeway because everything happens so quickly. And so she will never probably need the 16-tooth sprocket upgrade. And that's just, you know, that's personal preference, what you're doing, what you want the bike to do. Overall, though, it's been a great machine. We've got more videos coming up. I've got some ride videos. I got to do a bunch of editing today. I know I've been out for the last 3 weeks. We had Memorial Day weekend. Myself being a veteran, we had kind of some stuff we wanted to do, and then we did some stuff with some friends. And then we had another weekend where we went up with friends, took the bikes up, and I could have done some video and stuff, but the kids wanted to ride their motorcycle, and we did some fishing and some kayaking, and so I have some video of some of the stuff we did that I'm going to edit into another video, just, you know, one of our life videos where, hey, this is us, this is what we do. But I wanted to get the 10,000 mile review because I just hit 10,000 miles. I'm 10,020 right now. So I wanted to get that review out there and tell you guys that, I know quite a few people commented on my video where, I was wondering how broke it was going to be when I had to replace the thermostat because I didn't know if there was going to be a head gasket issue or more underlying problems. And people were like, oh my God, I bought this bike. Is it going to be a piece of crap? How's it holding up? And I'm here to tell you that, that was a fluke needing to replace the thermostat because of the gasket. And I've got 10,000 miles on this bike. And I can't even believe that I got 10,000 miles on that chain. It's right there. I've never had a motorcycle that couldn't stretch a chain before 10,000 miles. That Ducati of mine, if I get on it on a cheap chain, I'm buying a chain every freaking couple hundred miles. So it's a great bike. We get that 300 miles to the tank on it, a little over usually. But the fuel gauge, it lies, man. The fuel gauge is really, really bad about telling you that you're empty and you've still got 100 miles on this bike. It's nice when you're in the backcountry as a new rider to be like, crap, I need to go get somewhere and get gas. The problem with it is you quickly realize that that's 100 miles left at least on the tank when it starts flashing at you. And so you get to a point where you have no indication of how much fuel is in the tank. You have to reset your odometer. I consistently reset my trip odometer every trip, every fuel up, because I'm going to get to a point where I know it's going to be low on fuel, but I don't know how much. So I've got to know the range of my bike, and then I've got to put up with that annoying flashing light for the next 100 miles. And there's a really good chance that if you're not paying attention and you are aware that you have 100 miles, that starts flashing on you, well, you can soak up 100 miles real quick, and now you're out of fuel in the middle of nowhere. And the last place you could have got fuel, maybe it was 40 miles out of your way, but you thought, there's got to be another town somewhere, I'm just going to keep going, and now you're out of fuel on the side of the road. I normally keep a bottle in this bag. It gives me about not quite a half a gallon of extra fuel on the bike just in case. I haven't done the Rotopack mod or anything like that for the bike, so it's just something to keep in mind. But this is a bike that so far everywhere we've taken these bikes, regardless of when I crashed it up in the mountains in the middle of nowhere or whatnot, these bikes have always got us home up to this point. And it's been 10,000 miles with just a few little quirks. I had to replace the seat bolt. Seat bolt came out. Kawasaki replaced that. They actually upgraded both seat bolts to ones that I don't think they can come out without torquing on them. And thermostat. So it's been a great bike, man. You guys get out there and ride and enjoy. There is so much of this country that is worth seeing, so much of the world that's worth seeing. And a bike like this is inexpensive. It gets great fuel mileage, and it's dead reliable. I came home with that leaking thermostat, and I had no problems. I did not worry that I was not going to make it home. And so, get out, get some toys, go out and adventure, and enjoy life, man. Enjoy the shit out of life, because the older that you get, the more you're going to realize that life's not really that long. And the stuff that I worried about in my 20s when we started our family aren't what I worry about now. And now it's about time with the wife, time with the family, getting out and just enjoying stuff. And in the last couple of years, and especially since we bought these bikes, we've been exploring more of our own backyard that's been here the entire time, and we didn't go and do a lot of that stuff. And we've discovered new hot springs, we've discovered new friends, new people, and it's great, man. And this bike has really allowed us to get out and do that more. And man, there is nothing sexier than watching my old lady ride a motorcycle and I'm right next to her. And up until that point in our marriage, unless it was a dirt bike, she was always on the back of my bike. I didn't get that view. And so I spent a lot of time letting her just lead the way, and we're doing 55 miles an hour down some farm road and having a good time. So get out there and adventure. Life's worth it.